All right, let's check in now on the latest as far as U.S. markets are concerned. Bloomberg's Jessica Summers is in New York. Jessica, good day. Thanks indeed for joining us. So this U.S.-China trade talks, it's been a bit of a seesaw event for us. One day the markets are down, the next day up. But we see U.S. stocks are becoming a bit optimistic on the fact that tensions are now seen to be easing.
Yes, that's very true. We've seen quite a risk on day to day in the equity market, and that is off the back of U.S.-China trade talks here. Investors thinking that they're going quite well. There's signals that they are going quite well. The S&P 500 posted its biggest intraday gain in this month so far. We had the financials, materials, energy companies, and FANG stocks all rallying. But in terms of the U.S.-China trade talks here, we've had U.S. President Donald Trump come out and say he's willing to extend this March 1st deadline if he does think a deal may be close to being reached. So really showing that he's willing to, get this deal done. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens.
So in terms of the biggest movers on the S&P 500, you've put something called Under Armour, which might be very popular in the US, but perhaps you can tell us why they were one of the biggest gainers and what exactly Under Armour is.
Yes, Devin. So Under Armour was one of the biggest gainers on the S&P 500 today, rising nearly 9% after posting fourth quarter earnings that beat analyst estimates, which was quite interesting. Investors really shrugged off a warning, though, that their first quarter revenue may come in close to flat or even slightly down. This is Under Armour's second straight quarter of positive earnings. And what's really interesting for investors to know is that Under Armour is actually outpacing Nike and Adidas in terms of makers of athletic gear. So it is one stock to really keep an eye on.
All right, so as we always do, we watch that oil price very carefully. Brent is rising on reports of more Saudi Arabia supply cuts, and that's possibly bad news for us on the petrol front. But what's the latest on the OPEC deal to reduce output?
Yes, we did see a nice rally today in Brent, climbing nearly 3% intraday. WTI also following Brent upwards. That was off the reports that Saudi Arabia plans to increase its oil output cuts. Saudi Arabia's energy minister even came out and said that it's going to reduce output to 9.8 million barrels a day next month, essentially going above and beyond what it needs to do or what it had agreed to do in the OPEC deal to cut output. So showing Saudi Arabia's commitment to the deal on that front. We also had an OPEC report published today showing that the group cut output by the most in 2 years last month. So also showing signs of commitment by, many OPEC members, not just Saudi Arabia. Then we also have the U.S.-China trade war as another positive catalyst, not only in the equity market, but in the oil market as well.